What if you could get a phone call from the afterlife? Today, we're diving into a really incredible story from the world of instrumental transcommunication. That's using electronics to try and contact spirits. And this is a deeply human story of loss, grief, and a connection that was meant to bring comfort right in the face of an awful tragedy.
It's one of the biggest questions out there, isn't it? In this explainer, we're going to explore a documented case from 1991 that some say offers a little window into this very mystery, all based on a series of alleged spirit communications.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll follow this story through 5 key parts. We'll start with an urgent search for a lost child, then we'll hear about the call to the afterlife, get a description of a kind of healing process, clarify some big questions, and finally uncover what I think is a powerful message for anyone who's grieving.
Okay, let's get right into it. Our story kicks off in May of 1991. An ITC researcher in Luxembourg, a woman named Maggy, gets this urgent request from a group of her fellow experimenters.
And their goal, well, it was heartbreakingly specific. They wanted to use this really unusual communication channel to find out what had happened to a little boy named Juergen Marcel in the spirit world years after his tragic death.
So the very next month, June 1991, Maggy reportedly gets a phone communication from her main spirit contact, an entity who called herself Swejen Salter. And it turns out the search for Juergen had actually worked.
This was the first piece of information that came through, and it's heavy. It not only confirmed they'd found the boy, but also described the state he was in when he first arrived in the spirit realm, still carrying the wounds from his passing.
After hearing that, Maggy of course asked the most natural question in the world. Who's looking after him? What happens to a wounded child in this other place?
The answer that came back was, wow. It was not only incredibly specific, but for Maggy, it was deeply personal. The boy was apparently being cared for by her own grandmother, Marie Macreece. And, most importantly, the message said the boy was no longer suffering and had actually forgotten the trauma. He was happy.
So, this is where it gets really interesting. How does this healing actually work, according to this source? Well, the entity, Swejen Salter, went on to describe the whole process for people who arrive wounded or sick. Now, this is just fascinating. The communication described a very structured, almost medical-like process. New arrivals are placed in these tubs filled with some kind of healing water where their wounds are treated. The source even claims that through this process, tissue regenerates and that the spirit body is restored to being whole again.
And this right here became a key moment of validation. When this information got back to Juergen's mother, she confirmed that the description, friendly with blonde curly hair, was spot on. Can you just imagine the comfort that must have brought, to hear that your child was reportedly safe, happy, and finally free from his trauma?
Now, an account like this is going to bring up some tough questions, right? It's only logical. And the source material itself, including some follow-up discussions, actually provides clarifications for some of the biggest ones.
This is maybe the most difficult question of all. If he passed away years earlier, why did he still need healing when they found him? Why would his soul carry that suffering for so long?
The explanation that's offered is this concept of a shadow realm. The idea is that people who die under really traumatic or troubled conditions can get, well, lost. They get stuck in a state of terror or confusion, trapped in a kind of spiritual residue near Earth until they can be found and helped by spirit rescue teams.
All right, the second big question, the grandmother. It seems like a 1 in a million coincidence that Maggy's own grandmother would be the one caring for this specific child, right? I mean, what are the odds?
Well, according to the source, it wasn't a coincidence at all. Not even close. The spirit group that was communicating with Maggy, they called themselves Time Stream, had actually formed around her research. So naturally, it attracted her own relatives from the spirit world, including her grandmother, who wanted to be a part of this work. So she was already there, serving as a member of that rescue team.
So let's move into our final section and see how this all builds up to a much broader message about grieving and the kind of impact it can have.
This is where the source makes a really interesting distinction. It says for loved ones who passed away peacefully, it's a good thing to connect through happy memories, that they can instantly be with us to share that love. But for those who had a traumatic passing, it offers a word of caution. That intense grief from us, the living, can accidentally pull their spirit back toward that earthly trauma, making it harder for them to heal and move on.
And that's the crucial point, as the author Mark Macy summarizes it. For some souls, a period of separation, of just forgetting for a little while, is a necessary part of their healing.
They just need some time and space away from it all before any kind of reconnection can be healthy for them. But here's the really hopeful conclusion. The message here isn't one of permanent separation. Not at all. It's really a message of patience. It suggests that once those emotional wounds have had time to heal, on both sides of the veil, that powerful, incredible bond between a parent and child can be reestablished.
So we're left with this final thought. Whether you take this account as literal fact or maybe as a powerful metaphor, it really challenges us to think about a profound idea, that our own emotional state when we're grieving might have an impact far beyond what we can see, affecting not just our own healing, but maybe, just maybe, the peace of those we've lost.